Hello, everyone. Welcome to Nina and Moretti's table. I am Moretti Collins, your host. If you are new here, let me tell you how this podcast came to be. Several months ago, my wife, Dr. Nina Collins, lost her battle with colon cancer. In the aftermath of that loss, I started Nina and Moretti's table because I want to honor her memory and share our story. Nina loved conversations about faith, hope, and finding meaning in life's hardest moments. She would have loved sitting at this table having these discussions. I started this podcast to share my grief journey and to provide support to people around the world who are struggling with loss. If our story can help even one person feel less alone in their pain, then Nina's legacy continues. My daughters and I recorded our first episode recently. We sat at this table, Nina's empty chair right here beside us, and we told our story. That episode and the second one with her best friend, a therapist, are now available. And honestly, I don't know if I'm ready for the world to hear them. But Nina always said the most important conversations are the ones we most afraid to have. Today's episode is different. Over the past few weeks, friends and relatives have been sending me questions about grief, about healing, about faith, and how you're supposed to navigate life after losing someone you love. I've been avoiding answering them, honestly, because I didn't know if I had the answers. But then I realized maybe that's exactly why I need to try. So today, I'm going to answer those questions. Some of these questions I'm still figuring out. Some might sound messy or incomplete, but they're honest. And maybe that's what matters most. If you've lost someone you love, if you're walking through grief right now, this one is for you. I hope my answers in this podcast provide help and support to anyone grieving, no matter what that grief is about. So let's begin. I will read the questions and provide my honest answers for this episode. So the first question is, it's been several months since Nina passed. Can you describe what those first days and weeks were like? What does the beginning of grief feel like? This is a difficult one. First days felt like living in a fog. Everything moved in a slow motion, yet somehow time also disappeared. I remember going through the motions, making funeral arrangements, accepting condolences, trying to hold it together for the girls. But it didn't feel real. It was like watching someone else's life from the outside. The physical sensations were unexpected too. The tightness in my chest, the exhaustion that sleep couldn't fix, the way my body just felt heavy. Some moments I couldn't cry even when I wanted to. Other moments the tears came out of nowhere, sometimes in a grocery store, in the shower, or while folding laundry, or just doing something regular around the house. The beginning of grief, it feels like being lost in a foreign country where you don't speak the language and you can't find your way home. The other part is the questions for God. So I ask God a lot of questions. God, why did this happen? Why the illness, then now death? But I ask God the same question when the cancer returned after 2 years of Nina being declared cancer free. I realized that his will is not like ours and he understands more than what we can fathom from our own beliefs and imagination. He knows we will go through trials and tribulations, and sometimes that's why he is our strength in times of trouble and our comforter. So this brought me clarity and some peace. The next question is, in those early days, what were the biggest challenges you faced that you didn't expect? What surprised you about grief? These are tough questions. I didn't expect how lonely it would be even surrounded by people. Everyone showed up for those first weeks, bringing food, sending flowers, offering help. But then life went back to normal for everyone else, and I was still here stuck in this reality when Nina was gone. I also didn't expect the guilt over things I said or didn't say, moments I missed during her illness, even guilt about feeling okay for brief moments. Another surprise was how grief isn't linear. People talk about stages, but it doesn't work that way. You don't graduate from denial to anger or to acceptance. You cycle through all of it, sometimes in the same hour. And also the physical reminders, seeing things in her house, like her coffee cup, her handwriting on the calendar, her scent still on her pillow. Those small things could completely undo me. The live digital photo frame in our living room was a nightmare. The videos and photos reminded me of her so much that I had to take it down. I couldn't stand that she was no longer here with us. And those up till this date remind me of her, and I really miss her. Our next question. A lot of people who are grieving feel guilty about everything, laughing too soon, not crying enough, moving on with daily life. Did you experience this? How did you handle those feelings? Yes, absolutely. The first time I laughed at something, I think it was maybe a few days or a week after Nina passed, and I immediately felt horrible. Like, how dare I feel anything other than sadness? I've had to learn that grief and joy can coexist. Nina wouldn't want us to stop living. She fought so hard to stay alive precisely because life is precious and meant to be lived. I've started telling myself that honoring her memory doesn't mean being miserable forever. It means carrying her love forward into whatever comes next. The guilt still comes, but I'm learning to acknowledge it without letting it control me. I talk to Nina sometimes out loud in my head, sometimes in my prayers, and I tell her about these feelings. It helps. I also see her in my dreams, and she wants me to be happy. She wants me to take care of the kids and to be present for them as she would. She wanted the best for the girls, and that's a responsibility I am carrying and will do all that I can to raise my girls the best way to honor Nina's memory and fulfill her dreams and plans for them for the future. Another question I was asked. Nina battled colon cancer for years. You were a caregiver so long. How does grief feel different now that the caregiving has ended? Is there a part of you that doesn't know what to do with yourself? That's a big one. This is something I wasn't prepared for. For years, my life revolved around Nina's care, doctor's appointments, medications, treatments, good days and bad days. This is something she didn't like. She always cared for herself and did not want people to see her and have pity on her. She was hardworking, she was responsible, and very self sufficient. Anyway, I became an expert on her condition, her needs, her comfort, and then suddenly nothing. The calendar is empty. There's no one to check on in the middle of the night, no medications to organize. It's disorienting. Part of me feels lost without that purpose. Caregiving gave my pain a direction, a way to channel my love into action. Now I have all this love and nowhere to put it. I've had to learn that grief after a long illness is complicated. There's relief mixed with the sadness, and that relief brings its own guilt. Relief that she's not suffering anymore, relief that the hardest parts are over. But then you feel terrible for feeling relieved. It's a mess of emotions that I'm still sorting through. One of the hardest things about grief is that everyone wants to help, but nobody really knows how. And honestly, sometimes we don't know what we need either. So let me talk about that, about the practical side of healing. The next set of questions in relation to what actually helps. Someone asks, what are three practical things you've done in these past months that have genuinely helped your healing process? Not things people told you to do, but things that brought you comfort or peace. This is a difficult one. First, I started writing, not for anyone else, just for me. Some days it's a note or letter to Nina. Some days it's just word. Some days it's just word vomiting everything I'm feeling onto paper. It helps get the chaos out of my head. Second, I've kept some of Nina's routines. She used to make tea or coffee every morning. She loved to cook for me and the kids and enjoyed when we sat together and ate at the dining table. And I've continued doing that. It sounds small, but these rituals make me feel connected to her. Lastly, I've learned to say no. People mean well, but sometimes their help or their invitations or their advice is just too much. I've given myself permission to protect my energy and only say yes to things that help my healing. It's not selfish, it's survival. The next question is, faith is a huge part of this podcast and your life. But let's be honest, has your faith been challenged? How has your relationship with God changed or evolved since losing Nina? This is a great question. Faith has absolutely been tested. I mentioned earlier about questioning God due to the recurrence of the adenocarcinoma of the colon after 2 years remission. I've been angry at God. I've questioned why He allowed her to suffer, why He didn't heal her, why our prayers seemed to go unanswered. There were days I couldn't pray at all. The words just wouldn't come. But here's what I've learned: God is big enough to handle my anger. My doubt doesn't scare Him. I found that faith isn't about having all the answers or maintaining perfect trust. It's about showing up even when you're angry, even when you're confused, even when you're broken. My relationship with God feels different now. Less about performance, more about honesty, less about understanding His plans, more about trusting that He's present in this pain. Nina's faith was so strong, and watching her cling to God even in her darkest moments taught me what real faith looks like. I'm trying to follow her example. The next question is, you have daughters who are also grieving their mother. How do you help them heal while you are also falling apart? What is it like to parent through your own grief? This is a tough question. This might be the hardest part. How do you guide your children through grief when you barely surviving it yourself? I've tried to be honest with them. I don't pretend to be okay when I'm not. I let them see me cry. I think they need to know that grief is normal, that it's okay to fall apart. But I also try to create stability where I can, keeping routines, being present for the important moments, making sure they know they are not alone. We talk about their mom often. We share memories and we look at photos sometimes. I've learned that they grieve differently than I do, and that's okay. One daughter wants to talk about it constantly, the other processes privately, and that's actually normal and fine. And I'm learning to meet each of them where they are. And honestly, they've taught me a lot. Their resilience, their ability to still find joy, it gives me hope. The next question, have you found any moments of hope yet? Any glimpses of light? Or is it still too dark to see that far ahead? Wow, this is a difficult one. Hope comes in unexpected moments. It's not this big, dramatic thing. It's small. It's waking up one morning and realizing the tightness in your chest isn't quite as bad. It's laughing at the memory of Nina instead of only crying. It's watching my daughters support each other and thinking she raised amazing humans. It's the sunrise that reminds me God is still creating beauty. It's her friends, acquaintances, or strangers reaching out to say our story helped them feel less alone. I can't see the word path. I can't see the whole path forward yet. And I'm not sure I'm supposed to, but I can see the next step and then the next one. That's enough for now. Nina always said that hope is in the absence of pain, it's the presence of God in the middle of it. And I'm starting to understand what she meant. Next question. Nina left behind so many memories, lessons, her faith, her strength. How are you keeping her presence alive in your home and in your heart? What practices or rituals have helped you feel connected to her? That's a good one. We talk about her every day or every other day. That's the most important thing. We don't avoid her name or pretend she didn't exist. We share stories about her. Remember when mom did this? Remember when mom said this? Or remember what mom would say? Remember what she would do if you wanted to do this? I've kept a few things exactly as she left them. This was the hard part for me. I had to let go of many things around our home that brought back memories and brought me pain and guilt. I still have her books, her handwritings, her cell phone, and all the many pictures and memories we made together on vacations, at programs, at church, at graduations. I still have those. We're not ready to completely change everything yet. We also do things she loved, cooking her favorite meals, watching movies she enjoyed, sometimes supporting causes she cared about, and we pray. We thank God for the time we have with her. We ask Him to help us live in ways that will make her proud. Starting this podcast is a part of that. Carrying forward the conversations she wanted to have, the faith she wanted to share. She's not here physically, but her impact, her love, her legacy, that's very much alive. There's something I want to address because while we're talking about what helps, we also need to talk about what hurts and what we need to avoid. Some of the questions targeted that, and I want to talk about it. So, our next question is: what are some things you've learned not to do? What makes grief harder? What adds stress instead of bringing healing? That's a very good question. I've learned not to compare my grief to anyone else's or to some imaginary timeline. Grief is personal. There's no right way to grieve, there's no right way to do it. I've also learned not to rush to make major decisions. I've heard this advice before, and I believe it's true. Sometimes your brain isn't functioning normally in early grief. And some people say, oh, don't make harsh decisions to sell the house. Don't make decisions to change jobs. Don't make huge life choices until the fog clears a bit. Another thing I believe, don't isolate completely, but also don't force yourself into social situations that drain you. Find a balance and don't numb the pain with unhealthy coping mechanisms. It's tempting to stay busy, to drink, for example, or to escape into work or screens or whatever makes you forget for a moment. But you can't heal what you won't feel. So the pain must be processed and not avoided. Another question, there's a lot of advice out there about grief, some good, some terrible. What's the worst advice you've received? What do you wish people would stop saying to people who are grieving? Yes, this is a good one. This is a hard one, and I'm also guilty of it. But my experience with grief made me realize it. She's in a better place. It's probably the one that bothers me most. I know it's meant to comfort, and I do believe Nina is with God. But when you in this thick of grief, hearing that doesn't help. The better place I want her to be is here with us, here with me. Also, another one that people say a lot is God needed another angel or God doesn't give you more than you can handle. These phrases minimize the pain and make it sound like there's some neat explanation for tragedy. There isn't. Sometimes awful things just happen. The best thing people have said is simply, I'm sorry, I'm here for you, and that's it. No trying to fix it or explain it or rush me through it. Just sorry. Also, just presence, just being there, just the acknowledgement that this is hard and that they're with me in it. That's what grieving people need, not answers, just compassion. Next question is, how do you handle the pressure to be strong or to move on? How do you resist the urge to rush your own healing? I've had to redefine what strength means. Being strong doesn't mean not crying or always having it together. Strength is getting out of bed when you don't want to. Strength is asking for help. Strength is letting yourself feel everything, even when it's excruciating. As for moving on, I don't think that's even a goal. I'm not trying to move on from Nina. I'm trying to move forward with her memory, her love, her lessons woven into who I am becoming. There's a difference. I resist rushing by checking in with myself regularly. Am I doing this because I'm ready or because I think I should be ready? Am I honoring my actual feelings or performing for others? Healing takes as long as it takes. Anyone who pressures you to hurry it alone doesn't understand grief. Next question. Grief can make you want to withdraw from everyone and everything. How do you balance the need for solitude with the danger of isolating yourself too much? This is a very hard one. This is a daily struggle for me. Some days I want to hide from the world. I don't want to see people's pity or answer questions about how am I doing. But I've learned that complete isolation is dangerous. It's in isolation that the darkest thoughts creep in. I try to stay connected in small ways, texting a friend, going to church even when I don't feel like it, accepting help when it's offered. I've also found a few safe people who I can be completely honest with, people who won't judge me or try to fix me. Those relationships are lifelines. The balance comes from listening to yourself. If you need alone time, take it. But if that alone time starts feeling more like a prison than a refuge, then reach out, especially if it's hard. Next question. What role does rest play in healing? Have you found it hard to sleep or to give yourself permission to just stop? How do you manage the tiredness that comes with grief? That's another hard question. Grief is exhausting in a way I never understood before. It's not just mental or emotional, it's physical. Sometimes your body is carrying trauma. Sleep has been difficult. Some nights I can't fall asleep because my mind won't stop. Other nights I wake up at 3 a.m. and can't get back to sleep. I've had to learn that rest is not lazy, it's necessary. Your body needs time to heal, just like your heart does. I've started being more intentional about rest, going to bed at a reasonable hour, taking naps when I need them without guilt, saying no to things that drain my energy. Sometimes rest looks like doing nothing, and that's okay. You don't have to earn the right to rest. It's not productive or impressive, but it is essential. Give yourself permission to just be still. Sitting here answering these questions is strange, but it's also helpful because sometimes we don't process what we're going through until we say it out loud. So this is a good thing for me. So next question, Eddie, if you could go back to day one, the day after Nina passed, what will you tell her? What do you know now that you wish you've known then? I would tell myself, you are going to survive this. It doesn't feel like it right now, but you will. Don't rush it. Don't fight the pain. Let it wash over you. Feel everything. Cry when you need to. Ask for help. Ac- Accept help. Let people in and know that healing doesn't mean forgetting her or dishonoring her memory. You can love her and still live. You can grieve her and still find joy again. Those things aren't opposites. They're both part of what comes next. Also, be gentle with yourself. You are going to mess up. You are going to say the wrong things, maybe make mistakes as a parent, have bad days. That's okay. We are all humans, and Nina knew that. God knows that. Give yourself the same grace they would give you. Another question. This podcast is called Nina and Moretti's Table. Nina's not here physically. Nina's not here. This podcast is called Nina and Moretti's Table. Nina's not here physically, but in what ways is she still part of this? How does doing this podcast honor her? Oh, Nina is the reason this podcast exists. It was her idea, her vision, her fit that inspired it. Every time I sit at this table, I feel her presence, not in a spooky way, but in the sense that everything she taught me, everything she believed, everything she stood for is still here. Her voice may not be on the recording, but her heart is in every word. This podcast harness her by continuing the conversations she wanted to have. She wanted to talk about faith in the fire, hope in the hardest moments, finding God when life doesn't make sense. That's exactly what we're doing. And everyone who listens, everyone who's encouraged or comforted or challenged by these conversations, that's Nina's legacy continuing. She's still speaking, still teaching, still pointing people to hope. Next question. What do you hope people take away from listening to your story? What do you want others who are grieving to know? I want people to know they're not alone. Whatever feeling, the anger, the guilt, the exhaustion, the moments of unexpected laughter, the darkness, the tiny glimpses of hope, it's all normal. Grief is messy and complicated and doesn't follow a script, but you're not doing it wrong. I also want people to know that it's okay to talk about it. We've made grief too taboo in our culture. We expect people to grieve privately and get over it quickly. But healing happens in community. It happens when we are honest. It happens when we stop pretending we are okay and start admitting we are not okay. And for those who still have faith, I want you to know that God can handle your questions. He can handle your anger, your doubts. He's not afraid of your honesty. Bring it all to Him, and He's going to be there for you. And another question I was asked is, what's one thing you are grateful for today, even in the midst of all this pain? To be honest, I would say this. I'm grateful for the years I've had with Nina. Not everyone gets that kind of love. We had something rare, and it was beautiful. And even though it ended too soon, I wouldn't trade those years for anything. I'm grateful for my daughters and the way they've shown up for each other and for me. I'm grateful for this table and the conversations it represents. I'm grateful that Nina's faith was so strong that it is carrying me through even now. And honestly, I'm grateful for the pain, as strange as that sounds, because the depth of my grief is evidence of the depth of my love. You can't hurt this much over someone who didn't matter. So, yes, it's painful, but it's also proof of something sacred that's worth being grateful for. This is a very short episode for this week. Thank you for sitting with me today. I know this wasn't a typical podcast episode. There was no guest, no back and forth conversation, just me answering questions that friends and relatives sent me, but somehow it felt right. It felt necessary. Before I go, I want to talk about something that's become incredibly clear to me through this journey, the importance of living a stress-free life, or at least reducing stress wherever necessary or wherever possible. Grief itself is stressful enough. It taxes your body, your mind, your spirit. You don't need to add to that burden. I've learned that stress doesn't just make grief harder, it can store your healing. When you're constantly stressed, your body stays in survival mode. You can't process, you can't rest, you can't heal. Give yourself permission to simplify. Say no to obligations that don't serve you. Set boundaries with people who drain you. Let go of the need to have everything figured out or to keep up appearances. Protect your peace fiercely. It's not selfish, it's important. Nina understood this. Even in the midst of her battle, she prioritized peace. She didn't let stress rob her of the moments that matter. And now, honoring her means doing the same. Grief is lonely. Even when you're surrounded by people who love you, there's a loneliness to it that's hard to describe. But then you share your story and you realize you are not as alone as you thought. Someone out there is nodding along, saying, yes, that's exactly how it feels. If that's you, if you're listening to this and you've lost someone you love, I want you to know you are not alone. You are not crazy. You're not doing it wrong. Healing doesn't follow a timeline or a rule book. It's messy and it's hard. And some days you won't want to get out of bed. And that's okay. Nina always said that hope isn't the absence of pain, it's the presence of God in the middle of it. I'm still learning what that means, but I'm here. I'm trying, and that's enough. I hope my answers today provided some help, some comfort, some sense that you're not walking this path alone. Whether you're grieving the loss of a loved one, the loss of a dream, the loss of what you thought your life would be, your grief is valid, your pain matters, and there is hope, even when you can't see it yet. Next week, we'll be back with more conversations at this table. Until then, take care of yourself, be gentle with your heart, protect your peace, and remember the most important conversations are the ones we are most afraid to have. This is Moretti, your host, and you've been at Nina and Moretti's table. Thank you.